last time you slide? Jeez. Yeah. How many do you have? 22. Holy moly. Okay, well, I'm just like, sometimes, at some point, I'm just flipping through them. Like, I'm just slide after slide after slide. Like, no, I'm not saying like it's going to be super long. I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't know how long to spend on that. My script is like 5 pages. But it's double spaced. So I can read it all. You know what? I should make like 4 pages. So I can read it. We could do that. Ah, shoot.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Jordan, how are you presenting today? No. No? Why do you look so cute? You just decided you were going to dress up for today? Yeah, no special reason. Nice. Who else is going to? Kayla and Lisa. Nice. Right.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're here.
Good morning.
Are you ready? Look at your leather jacket. Is your jacket big here?
Yes,
Yeah. I love your socks. They're sweet. Oh my God, this is channeling my childhood right now.
This is my mom, so this is vintage.
Lovely.
This is Walmart. This is Forever 21.
Love
And
it.
this is stolen from 5 years.
Perfect. Love it. Love the aesthetic. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Good. You're going to do great. You're doing absolutely great.
And I FaceTime my friends. Okay, I'm gonna just present.
Morning. You look smart, Matthew.
That was smart.
In the British
version of
sense,
smart.
in the British sense that you look very put together and proper and in a good uniform.
There we go.
Right.
Sorry, you're also smart as an adjective, but.
No, that's really
I
disagreeable.
was teasing, but hey, so are you still screening this? So you've got a different thing on your screen versus what's presented on your notes, or you just have a mirror?
Really good. Thank you.
I'm gonna mirror it.
Yeah,
I'm fine presenting from my own memory.
yeah, because mirroring is easier. You saw it getting things lined up on your side. So yeah, if you want to share it, it's up already. It's just unsaved. If you share your presentation with a presentation at maui.org, then you'll be able to find it to look at.
Alright.
And then I have to run because I've got the eyes here. So we're just screening the phone.
Okay.
Great. Both, I think all three are presenting off and mirroring, so there's no weirdness there.
Okay.
Matt's just in the process of sharing his with presentation at our.
Okay, sounds good. You good with that?
Good presentation the other day.
Yeah, you did great.
I'm so. Girl, I almost finished it.
Are you?
I'm so excited.
Well, you could have done that, like,
I was at Andy Lang tested.
well, you should have planned that, in like 89, I might have to miss the thing.
Well,
Like you
luckily,
did for your, flyer.
they're all
Yeah.
really good.
I did not take mine out. I rushed through AP Lang back in the day so that I could get full copy. And then I didn't just like whatever. Yeah, sign it to teachers.
Just confirming. I am here.
Or not, George Santos. I
When
like
you wait, when you paid,
Yep.
you're very bad. Looking very majestic.
Scrappy saves the day.
You're back. Where'd you go? Really? It seems like that's a constant theme for you, maybe you should go.
Over how the test go? Good.
It does not
Well, it's
actually.
easier to MCPs are quite hard to use.
I don't want to be.
Hey, nice to see you.
One of the first FRQ, the first long FRQ. And then the rest of them kind of, they're all like, one about, formation layers.
What? Did you have to do a five star? Did you have to do a hard one?
They made us do a report.
Okay. Equations you have to do? Like any of those that extend you.
Oh, one of diagrams. One of the first put in.
Oh, you had to know things about everything.
I didn't know students had wishes.
I think everyone's trying to do it.
No, not every issue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Thursday. What about Wednesday?
Alright, you go to Isa. Becker. Is Becker here?
Yeah. I don't want you to lie.
Cahill. Haley. Tessa. Emerson. Hannah. Lily. Mojo. Junkie. Oh, Junkie's a goal. Una. Lacey. Mia. Margo. QS. Jordan. Lucy. Brianna. Weber.
So whenever.
All right, who's first this morning? Come on up if you're. You doing your computer?
Yeah.
Stand by, we're waiting for a minute.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Yeah.
You're off phone.
Wait, hold on.
Can you wait? I have to like wait. Just like give me. Oh, that's like actually so messed up. Like, why would you do it? She did you good. Yeah. They look good.
Anything
You wanna go?
I did. Yes, I did.
Lisa, you ready? Jordan's parents are on the way, so we're gonna have you go first if that's right. You ready? Or we can have Cahill go. Cahill go. You wanna go? Wait till you see John James. You got this. Okay, just let him do it. Yeah, that's fine. All right, you ready?
I can try to be.
Yeah, you got it. All right, Matthew Cahill, ladies and gentlemen, here he is.
All right. So I, of course, did this whole thing on engineering 3D design and hydrogen, which are a bunch of things and kind of unrelated to each other, but you'll see, hopefully, if I can convince you. So, what I'm going to be going through this in this presentation will be my personal history with all of these sorts of subjects, especially with engineering. My driving question, why I chose it and why it's actually irrelevant to this entire presentation, because it is. You'll see why. I will go through my internships because I had two, and you'll also see why I had two. I'll go over why I decided to pursue engineering, my product, and my future of what college I'm going to be going to, and all that sorts of stuff. So my personal history, I'm going to go over my younger life a little bit. So younger me was obsessed with Legos and automobiles, especially like trains, trucks, cars, and tractors. You can see me on a tractor with my grandpa, who just let me steer it around a little bit when I was younger. And last summer, he actually let me drive the whole thing on my own. It was a manual, but not like an actual manual. Here are some more pictures. This was me when I was younger. I would take a container and I would tape paper plates to the side of it and make it look a little bit like a car and pretend I was driving in it. And then this is also baby me playing with a toy tractor. I do not remember that toy, but apparently I had something like that. So, my driving question, why I chose it and why it is irrelevant. So, my driving question is about hydrogen, and the question is hydrogen an effective and sustainable power source for the future of Hawaii? And this pretty much became completely irrelevant because there was only one place that I reached out to do an internship and to be able to do a lot more research on hydrogen. And that place was Hawaii Hydrogen Alliance, who I got in contact with them for a little bit, and they ended up practically ghosting me and just not talking to me after a while. I don't know why, they just stopped giving me work, and the work that they did give me was not like anything interesting and having to do with hydrogen, nothing in person, you're not seeing anything cool, just doing pretty much numbers. That's all the stuff they would give me. So eventually I was only able to do around 2 hours worth of this internship, and pretty much just left it for a completely different one, which pretty much just crushed the whole things of hydrogen. And there's another reason for that, which is having to do with e-fuels. So the reason that I wanted to pursue hydrogen was because of the fact that I like cars and I like combustion cars, and recently a lot of countries have been pushing to sort of get rid of them because of the CO2 emissions that they have. And one way that you could actually fix that would be by, instead of combusting gas in the engine, you could actually use hydrogen instead. But since actually I made that driving question, and now technology has advanced really quickly with e-fuels due to companies like Porsche, who have just been putting loads and loads of money into it, and they were able to make successful e-fuels. And as of right now, they're quite expensive, but they're going to be much easier than hydrogen in terms of storage and all that sorts of stuff, and just making it and transporting it. So I'll go over my internships and what happened with my whole dreams of hydrogen. Well, I already went over my whole dreams of hydrogen, but I'll go over a little bit of my internship. So Hawaii Hydrogen Alliance was the place that I interned at, and this is the person who I was interning with. His name is Chuck Collins. And he is like the founder or something of Hawaii Hydrogen Alliance. I never really got to know him too well because I hardly did anything with him other than meet him one time, which I first met with him at Queen K, and I helped him with like a few reports and research, mostly just doing numbers for him. And then I ended up with only 2 hours worth of internship before I gave up on him and had to move on to something else because he's not going to give me enough time that I need for the internship. So I eventually went to a mechanic that was a little bit down the street from here, which is 808 Car Care. They have around 3 to 4 employees, and I just interned with them for around 4 to 5 hours for a few days. And this is one of the pictures that I have from inside there of just the car, the wheels taken off, and the brakes also taken off. They were doing a brake job on this car, and they were also doing it on others. So I helped with many different types of repairs and watched a lot more complex ones at this internship. I was able to help with oil changes, pumping up tires, fixing a coolant leak, and a transmission fluid change, which someone will be familiar with, Mr. Lloyd, since that was his car.
Good job, Silver.
And I also helped with brake pad and rotor replacement. Well, I didn't help with that. I more watched that happen because that's way out of my league of what I could do. And this internship ended up giving me around 10 hours worth of internship time, or as I at least stopped logging it at 10 hours, but I think I did it a little bit more. And here's another picture of, I believe, the brake change that they did, because those things look like garbage. So I want to go over also why I decided to pursue engineering. So there are basically 2 reasons, and that is because of that, and also because of my younger life. So when I first started driving, I ended up realizing that I actually love it, and sort of got into like the whole idea of how a car works, the combustion, all the sorts of like steering, the mechanical parts of it, and I actually really like that. And the time that I started driving was around the time where I tried taking computer science classes, and I ended up not liking them. So I took 2 computer science classes or college classes, and then I just didn't really like them. And when I was younger, like you can see in the pictures previously, I was clearly I liked cars, trains. I also liked building with Legos and building train tracks. And my parents always told me how you should go ahead and be an engineer one day. And when I finally was able to drive and realized how much I actually like these things, I was like, you know what? You're right. Maybe I should be an engineer. So I tried it out, and so far, anything that I've done in engineering has been much more fun than anything I did in computer science. And this is my product. So this is a QR code, and you can take out your phones. I was given permission to allow you guys to do that. You can scan this, and it will take you to a portfolio that I have with a bunch of 3D models that I actually did, which when you go to engineering school, you will likely be taught how to do CAD softwares, which is like 3D modeling. You 3D model a bunch of cool things, and although I was only able to do static 3D models, which I'll actually click this link for anybody who didn't feel like doing that, and then here are a few of the models. So I can go over these. So this was a design challenge given to me by Mr. Lloyd and Carter, I believe, to design a cleat. Because I was like, I'm bored, I don't know what to do, give me something to design, and they gave me that. So I made it, and I believe if this loads, you can see it spin around. As the full 3D model, there's the holes in the top for like sticking it into the ground. I also, the very first model they made was this orthodontist tool, which I'm not going to go into the specifics of how it works and what it is, but I go to the orthodontist because of like teeth horrible, but I don't have braces, so you probably wouldn't know that. They had like a tool there that I thought would be useful at home, but I didn't have at home, and they wouldn't have in like mass production, so I sort of 3D designed it as if I wanted to make it in sort of larger production so that people like me could use them instead of just the orthodontist. This map here, which you can see is named Hirsch Map. So she was trying to create a map or like a 3D sort of design of a map for her middle school class, and she just gave me the like design of what it looked like, and I was able to put it into my modeling software, and I was able to pump this thing out. And if you go to Hirsch's room, you can actually see a version of this map, which is on her desk or somewhere in her classroom, I don't know where. I also ended up making this guitar, which originally I was going to try and make it like somewhat work by putting strings in there, but it was way too small the way it came out, so I couldn't do that. Looks cool though. I also created this plane, and when I was designing this plane, I decided to give a little gift to some second graders, I believe, where I 3D printed them 2 of these airplanes for 2 of them who love being a pilot or love being an engineer. I gave them a paper that described like what this plane is, because it's a 757, and gave it to them as a gift, and they loved it, and they actually sent me back a thank you note, which my mom has now put in her room and will probably never forget about. But the big thing that I made was this model. This was I created a Ferrari F40 by using blueprints of the actual car to make the most realistic version that I possibly could. But since I'm still learning these CAD softwares, I couldn't exactly get everything perfect. There are no headlights, there's no taillights, there's no windows. And a lot of this is just like the body lines of the car. But if you know what an F40 looks like and you see this, you'll be like, yep, that's an F40. So my future for what I'm going to do, I'll go over that now, is I have committed to Colorado School of Mines, which has been my #1 school for around 3 years, even when I was into computer science, because this is a STEM-only school. They have excellent classes in computer science and engineering and pretty much anything STEM that you can think of, which so far I've only been interested in that, so I love this school. It's only STEM. So I am going there, committed there a while ago, I think in like November or something. And it's been my #1 school for a while. And I'm very excited to actually finally go there. And thank you. It's like a thing that you have on a boat dock where you tie the rope around it and it keeps the boats like from not moving.
Like that?
I can just.
I had to look it up too. No worries.
This thing? Right here? Oh, right here. Okay. All right, Jordan.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming. I will be talking to you today about what I've been up to for the past 2 years because I actually do be doing something. So to dive straight in, this right here is my driving question. How is Hawaiian history taught in public schools? How does it gauge interest in students? And what effect does the subject have on students' overall civic participation? Now, I know what you're thinking, girl, what are you even talking about? And I get it, and I'll break it down for you and make it real simple. So using this driving question, I, like all my peers, divided a research paper up into 3 distinct strands, with each strand having a driving concept of their own, all meant to interconnect in beautiful harmony. First is civic participation, public education in Hawaii, and then youth activism. First, we will dissect strand 1. Civic participation. What even is that? Well, civic participation is quite literally the participation in civic engagement. You or I, as a citizen, exercising our constitutional right to expressing our opinion through actions such as voting, political activism, volunteering, or community engagement. Or in other words, participating in the democratic process. So why should you or I really care about these things? Well, other than the obvious, voting is important. It seems as though young people, specifically those within the 18 to 34 age bracket, are still the least likely to vote in elections, despite being perhaps the most vocal generation when it comes to politics and social justice. Just looking at this percentage of voter turnout from the Federal Census Bureau, we can see that even though the 2020 election had the highest turnout in history, still only 57% of citizens within the ages of 18 and 34 actually showed up to vote. And 18 to 34 is a big age gap, like that's not a lot of people. So how are students actually getting engaged in politics and civics? Well, it's mostly through community participation, being active in things like volunteer work, extracurricular activities, or membership in clubs. It's truly the key to facilitating youth engagement in civics. Now, if you're still sitting there thinking to yourself, this is still way too much, I have no clue what you're talking about, same girl, I don't know what I'm talking about half the time, but this is an example that will hopefully help you guys understand what I'm talking about. This right here is, oh my God. This right here is Finn Hudson, varsity football quarterback, hottest girlfriend, most popular guy in school. Finn's only care in the world was upholding his masculinity and popularity. Until one day, Finn took a leap of faith and joined the Glee Club. Doing so made him realize that his true passion was singing, or more specifically, singing with this group of misfits that created this community of music and harmony. Now, say there's a local election where the issue of making music illegal was a prominent theme, just like photos. Do you think that Finn, now part of this community and freshly 18 years old, would register to vote and voice his opinion via the ballot? Oh, girl. Sorry, guys. Yes. Yes. Do you get it now? But of course, this is just a TV show and we are in the real world. So I was thinking, what is a way that I can incorporate my junior project from last year concerning the issues of Native Hawaiians and Hawaiian history into this new project? Then I remembered my own interest in all things civics, politics, and whatnot sort of began in my 7th grade Hawaiian history class. Learning about the rich history of Hawaii, then the devastating events of Queen Lulu'ukalani's overthrow, coupled with the housing crisis that Native Hawaiians are still facing today, my eyes were open to the injustice occurring in my home. So that's what led me to my second strand, the impact of public school education on young minds towards politics and social issues. This is also where my internship comes into play. This year, I decided to head back to middle school and see what these kids are up to. My mentor, Mr. Novikov, is a 7th grade Hawaiian history teacher with a unique style of teaching. See, what Mr. Novikov does is with his students is that he combines current events and pop culture with the themes of the lessons that he's teaching. One lesson that stood out to me most was when he compared King Kamehameha I to Cinderella. Yes, you heard that right. Kamehameha the Great, the first monarch of Hawaiian Kingdom, the conqueror, and Cinderella, the Disney princess. As you would imagine, this sparked some very interesting discussions in the classroom and made it so students are thinking about history in a way that was relevant to their lives and their interests. In a way, Mr. Novikov is teaching his students to think critically about history and make connections between present and past. Now, this is the only picture I have of an internship. Just look. Oh my God, girl. Okay. I also noticed that middle schoolers today have a deeper understanding of what's going on around them. These kids were talking about current events like Andrew Tate and the Russian invasion of Ukraine and some anti-trans bills being passed on the mainland right now. It became clear to me that the combination of standard education and access to the internet made it so that students today are more aware than ever before. And in my opinion, that is great for the future of democracy. The observations I made in this internship also assisted in my creation of my third and final strand, youth activism. What are these darn kids up to? Well, if you recall the summer of 2020, something in the air back then sparked a lot of conversations about racism, sexism, learning our history, and so much more. Something that I personally observed from the summer of 2020 and also 2021 was that there was an overall increase in desire to be educated and educate. If you're on social media at the time, you may have seen infographics or slideshows explaining certain polarizing topics or highlighting issues and why people may have felt so strongly about them. These issues included Black Lives Matter protests, the conflict between Israel and Palestine, and also the brutal history of residential schools in Canada. Now, if you don't recall or have never heard of this before, in May of 2021, an Indigenous community in British Columbia located and identified several unmarked graves on the site of a former residential school. The residential school system was a method of cultural erasure facilitated by the Christian Churches of Canada. This system forcibly removed Indigenous children from their families, cut their hair, and forbade them from ever speaking their native language or practicing their culture. Unfortunately, not every child was able to survive this abuse, therefore resulting in the discovery of over 200 unmarked graves. These graves were children who were stolen from their families, their culture, and their heritage. Now, fortunately, this discovery brought attention to the terrible history of cultural genocide, and we can count this as a positive progress towards a brighter future. While the discovery of these graves is heartbreaking and traumatizing for those families affected, the overall awareness of the atrocities in the first place will further prevent them from ever happening again. And honestly, that's how you make lemonade with lemons. But hopefully that doesn't leave us on a sad note. If you're feeling some type of way, if you're mad or angry, that's good. Get angry, feel upset. These things that happened were bad. But the amazing thing is we live in a world where we can do something about it. But anyways, thank you all for your attention. I really appreciate you listening to my presentation. I hope that you will walk away with something today, whether that be that, oh my God, girl, Jordan talks a lot, or a newfound fire ignited within yourself to engage in your local government. Be democratic because we definitely need it. Thank you.
You got any time? All right, Issa, last one here.
Hi guys, my name is Issa and my senior project is about promoting adolescent mental health in high school. So my driving question is, what is the significance of including emotional assistance and knowledge in the classroom? So my main reason why I chose to do this was kind of like what Nico talked about. Finances is such a big thing and such an important part of life that isn't necessarily talked about in high school. I asked myself, why don't we talk about mental health to the extent that we talk about math or science or all these important things? So the first strand I have, I'm going to be talking about emotions and how to understand them, and then cause and effects, and then my research, and then implementing support daily, which would be my solution, and then my product, which is a digital letter sheet. So what are emotions? I'm pretty sure everyone here knows what emotions are. It's a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstance, mood, or relationship with others. So it's very important to understand your emotions because society has this clear depiction of there's brain health, mental health, and your emotions. And those three things, they are in the same realm, but they're all very different. And the scientific part of your emotions is brain signals. So your mind sends different signals when you feel something, but feeling something isn't necessarily correlating to emotions. So you could react in ways you didn't initially want to react, which could bring very negative outcomes or positive outcomes. And another reason why understanding your emotions is important, many people often opt for the worst possible way to cope when they don't understand why they feel the way they do. And a lot of misconceptions society shows, like self-diagnosing, or kind of what Lily talked about, social media. A lot of people aren't strong enough, or they can't find that within themselves to be vulnerable and ask for help because they don't themselves understand why they feel the way they do. I really like this quote that I found online. Emotional intelligence is involved in the capacity to perceive emotions, assimilate emotion-related feelings, understand the information of those emotions, and manage them. So it's very, very, very important to understand why you feel the way you do, because it does affect your relationships you have with other people, the way you perform every day, and the most important, the relationship you have with yourself. So I have this example here of how emotions are really important to know about. So for example, there's a party, you didn't get invited, and you feel really disappointed, and your emotions can often lead you to react in ways that isn't the best for yourself, and you can end up feeling really sad, like, I don't know what that is, but really sad. That's just a good example of how not being knowledgeable about the way you feel and your emotions can really affect not just your emotions for the day or the way you feel, but for the rest of your life. And then another positive outcome is just to find something else to do, like go outside, not worry too much, because that's saying if they wanted to, they would be. They obviously didn't want you there, but try to focus on other things and just try to be positive and find things to do that will get your mind off of something that's just so temporary. So what needs to change? So like I said earlier, implementing a class that's talking about mental health and digging more deep into that, your brain health, is very, very important. And I hope to pursue implementing classes like that in high school for high school students, because if you look back in the olden days, many people aren't as depressed or as anxious as our society now. And statistics show that the high rate per year is 157 million people die of suicide. And what leads to suicide is depression, anxiety, pressures of social media. And that 157 million people, 90% of that are teenagers, which is crazy, and it is pretty surprising, but it just goes to show that things need to change, and there's definitely there's an absence of mental health awareness in high school, and it does take a lot of vulnerability to ask for help, which is why I think, and I argue that adding a class that talks about mental health and talks about your emotions, how to combat them and understanding them, it doesn't necessarily give a student that vulnerable position to talk about how they feel, but instead you're giving them the position to learn about their emotions, to be knowledgeable about it, and to work on it independently or to ask for help. So just as math, science, history, and all these classes are important, so are these, and such as emotions, relationships, finances, buying a home, time management. These classes should definitely be implemented in high school, which is honestly the reason why a lot of students now suffer when they get out of college. They often opt for the worst possible things like marijuana, drugs, drinking, temporary pleasure. That does help, but in the long run, it doesn't. And like I said, 157 million, 90% of that are teenagers, and it's pretty unfortunate. So going back to my driving question, what is the significance of including emotional assistance and knowledge in the classroom? Students who struggle with unstable emotions are the result of our culture's absence of engagement in their growth and development. And if some students aren't vulnerable enough, at least the knowledge that they'll gain from the classes I hope to implement and pursue in the future and now will definitely make a change that I hope to see. This is my product. So I created a digital sheet, and I interviewed a lot of peers, and a lot of them write letters whenever they're sad. They write letters to themselves if they're ever feeling sad, anxious. Like my friend, she writes like 3-page essays in one sitting talking about like how sad she is. And I looked online and I found tons of articles of people writing letters to other people, helping them. If you're ever sad, read this, or if you're ever lonely. So I created links of each one. So that's just like, that's like an example. And then just to give a big like to end conclusion, the main reason why I chose to do this was last year, summer of 2022, I attempted suicide, and it was like one of the hardest things ever. And the main reason why I opted for that was because I didn't understand like the way I was feeling, and I felt like I wasn't acknowledged, and I didn't feel like I was normal, and it's hard to like be very vulnerable and sorry, but just interviewing a lot of my friends and older people, they want help and they want to be like knowledgeable about these things and know about their emotions and understand them. So that's basically why I opted for this idea, and I'm sorry. But yeah, I really hope to pursue this after college, and that's like my main passions is to just help people, and that's why I'm really passionate about this and why I chose to do this project about mental health. Thank you.